Cats and dogs. We forced them to live together. But in the wild, it's a different story. These predators have survived side by side in Africa for hundreds of thousands of years. They've never gotten along. Then, add a wild card, neither canine nor feline. The hyena's always looking for a fight. Cats, dogs, and hyenas, battling for supremacy in a predator free-for-all. These are Africa's ultimate rivals. Here in the African savanna, top predators compete for territory and prey. The fiercest competition pits the big cats versus the wild dogs. They harass each other, steal from each other, and even kill each other's young. On this battleground, every kill can be contested. Both cats and dogs bring their own unique arsenal of weapons and strategies to the playing field. But the lions are the undisputed heavyweights. They have a taste for the largest prey and the ammunition to take it down. The wildebeest, zebra, and buffalo are favorites on the menu. With such big prey, the lion's key strategy is overwhelming force. So when it's time to hunt, the cubs will be stashed away for safety. And all the adults will join in. A herd of buffalo is the chosen target. The pride fans out along a broad front, creeping up on their prey from multiple angles. When they get within striking distance, one attacks. This experienced lioness displays perfect technique. After the initial strike, she latches on, out of range of horns and hooves. Powerful shoulder muscles allow her to grasp, hold on, and fight for better position. 1-inch claws work like grappling hooks. Finally, reinforcements arrive like a well-trained strike force. The result? A victim that is still alive when they start to eat. A hungry lion can consume a whopping 50 pounds of meat at a sitting. But there's a dark side to lion supremacy. And the source of that darkness comes from the big males, who take drastic steps to maintain their dominance. This pride's king has been in power for more than 6 years. He said the females to himself, fighting off every challenge for mating rights. two younger males show up to take over his harem. The females watch one of the newcomers face off against the dominant male. The deposed king leaves the pride rather than face death at the teeth of his rival. For the new king, there's another grisly matter to take care of. The cubs of other males must be killed to bring the females back into heat and to ensure that his genes are passed on. Infanticide is a way of life for lions. Africa's wild dogs take a completely different approach to parenting. Their success revolves around protecting and nurturing the young. Like lions, wild dogs live and hunt in groups, but theirs are led by an alpha pair, a male and a female, the only ones who mate and bear young. Litter sizes range from about 10 to 12. But even in good times, about a fourth of the pups will die before reaching adulthood. That's why in wild dog society, pups always come first. Every member of the pack looks out for the young. While lions opt to hunt at night, wild dogs head out at dawn and dusk. Weighing in at about 60 pounds, wild dogs are the smallest of Africa's top predators. But what they lack in size, they make up for in numbers and determination. They're a major competition for the big cats. Dogs rely on their eyes and big radar-like ears to find prey. This morning, it's Impala. At its most basic level, the wild dog strategy is simple. Run. Wild dogs have huge hearts and lungs for their size, giving them the stamina for extreme long-distance running. An impala can sprint faster than a wild dog, but the dog's staying power is a critical advantage. They can run for several hours, all the while nipping at the prey's legs, waiting for sheer exhaustion to bring it to its knees. Lions only get about one takedown in every 5 chases, while wild dog packs average 3 kills in 4. That makes wild dogs Africa's most effective predator. They're also speedy eaters. They have to be. On this battleground, every kill is up for grabs. They'll consume this 150-pound impala in about 15 minutes. But there's another critical step to feeding the pack. With their bellies full, they return to the den to feed the offspring of the alpha pair. This preferential treatment for the young is a hallmark of wild dog culture and an important strategy for their survival. Unlike lions, whose cubs have to settle for scraps, the youngest wild dog pups always get the first seat at the table. Unless a big cat gets in the way. Dogs like solid ground beneath their paws. Cats are at home up in the trees. The house cat's miraculous ability to scale heights is a matter of natural selection. The best climbers have the best chance of getting away from their enemies. The same is true on the African savanna. Here, one wild cat has learned to outclimb all other cats and dogs, the leopard. Few predators can follow the leopard into its treetop refuge. Muscular back legs propel them upwards, and strong shoulders and sharp claws allow them to hang on to even the thinnest of branches. Unlike lions and wild dogs, leopards are loners, coming together only to mate. They also have very different hunting tactics. Instead of chasing their prey, they opt for stealth, lying in wait, or silently stalking. Leopards lead a lonely life. They avoid other big cats and dogs at all costs, and steer clear of their own kind as well, patrolling their territory to keep all competitors out. Young males start staking out their own hunting grounds when they're about 2 years old. This youngster starts by scent marking. Then he announces his presence with a series of chilling roars. An older, larger male responds. They size each other up. But after a brief staring contest, the older male decides that the juvenile is not worth the fight. Unlike the loner leopard, jackals, canine cousins of the wild dog, lead a more sociable life. They can live as pairs and mate for life. They're also extremely cunning and adaptive, equal opportunity hunters and thieves. Like shadows, they hang out on the fringes of other predators' kills. Even the pride of lions is not exempt from the jackal's sneaky scavenging. This pride is bagged an adult giraffe, which they'll gorge on for days. But they don't eat alone. A family of jackals eyes the prize. Carefully gauging the risk, they wait. And then they wait some more. Until the lion's food coma sets in. Finally, the hungry canine makes his move. His cunning pays off. He steals a jackal-sized portion without even a glance from the snoozy big cats. Score one for the dogs. If lions are the battlefield commanders and leopards are the lone snipers, the third-ranking big cat on the African savanna, the cheetah, is undoubtedly the quick strike specialist. And quick is the operative word. Cheetahs are fast, able to go from 0 to 60 in about 3 seconds. This 120-pound cat is the fastest land mammal in the world. But unlike the marathon runner wild dog, the cheetah is a sprinter. She can only maintain her top speed for short bursts. Efficiency is the key, both in picking a target and quickly bringing it down. Something they do about half the time. Because lions and leopards prefer to hunt at night, cheetahs have the killing field to themselves during the day. But even a clean hit doesn't always mean a kill. She'll need about an hour to recuperate before she can try again. This time, success. But she's almost too exhausted to hold on. When the impala finally succumbs, she calls her cubs to the feast. She's a single mother in a dangerous world, and she's stretched to her limit. Like the wild dog, cheetahs eat quickly. As the underdogs of the cat world, They know it's only a matter of time before someone bigger and stronger muscles in on their meal. Given a chance, just about any dog or cat can turn into a thief, even if it means risking trouble with their housemate. In the wild, scavenging food from a competitor is a matter of survival. But it's also the trigger for the most vicious predator confrontations. And the worst offender is the spotted hyena. This bizarre beast is the ultimate invader. Neither cat nor dog, hyenas are about twice the size of wild dogs. Unlike the alpha-paired wild dogs and the male-dominant lions, the world of the spotted hyena is dominated by the females. And there is one female, the matriarch, who truly rules the clan. She has the highest rank among the group, and she passes that rank to her cubs. Female hyenas are much larger than males and have evolved strange male-looking genitalia, likely the result of high doses of prenatal male hormones, which make the hyenas aggressive and give them a competitive advantage. The matriarch feeds her cubs for about 14 months. 8 months longer than most big cats, and 12 months longer than wild dogs. Her milk is the richest among land mammals, so a cub can go for days without nursing. Hyenas look awkward on the hunt. But their powerful jaws and strong teeth more than make up for their lack of grace. They can kill with a single bite and crush bone with ease. But why bother hunting when someone else can do it for you? Vultures circling in the sky, a telltale sign for the hyena that a competitor's kill may not be far. The clue pays off for the hyena queen. A predator has done some major damage to this wildebeest bull. The matriarch moves in, but knows that whoever started this kill is probably lurking close by. And she's right. A lone lioness hovers, weighing her odds against the approaching hyena. Both females know that a battle is high risk. Circling nervously, neither seems quite willing to make a move. The big cat breaks the stalemate. the hyena can wait. Her clan is not far, and that would cinch her victory. Bad news for the lone lioness. She abandons the kill before the rest of the hyena clan shows up. Without a single bite, the hyena wins the day. She bides her time, waiting as the bull breathes its last. The vultures act as a beacon, guiding the hyena clan to the kill. The leopard is also a common target for the thieving hyena. Even without his clan, the hyena likes the odds against this solitary sniper. He bides his time while the big cat gets ready to prowl. Wherever the leopard goes tonight, he will follow. The hyena lets the leopard expend his energy, finishing the kill. He waits as the leopard prepares to drag the impala up into a tree for safekeeping. Unlucky for the leopard, his meal gets tangled in the brush. Enter the hyena. The leopard is bigger, but the hyena's bite power is unsurpassed among land mammals. He hangs on until backup arrives. Score 1 for the hyenas. Next time out, the leopard fares a bit better. He's taken down a smaller impala and managed to get it up a tree. Hyenas can't climb trees, but lions can, and he's taking no chances. It's a high-wire balancing act that takes practice. And this leopard hasn't quite figured it out. The hyena is now 2 for 2. Here in the wild, if you want to survive, failure is not an option. Another kill for the leopard. But once again, he's dogged by the hyena. Deadly, determined, the hyena clamps down with his powerful jaws. He's hanging on by the slimmest of margins. Leopard and hyena settle in for an extended tug-of-war. Until... the lioness is a game changer. The hyena retreats into the shadows. The leopard does the same, but his escape route is up. He pulls the prey high into the tree, knowing that the lioness might decide to come up after it. And that's exactly what she does. Lions aren't nearly as agile as leopards, but they can get surprisingly high if they need to. Problem is, they're heavy, and the higher branches won't support their weight. The leopard has managed to stash his prey inches out of reach. The lioness backs off. The queen of the savannah is anything but regal as she stumbles back down. Lions are awkward in the trees, but on solid ground, they'll not only steal from other predators, they'll go out of their way to take them out. Even the much smaller wild dog is seen as competition. And competition must be destroyed. Wild dogs generally do whatever they can to stay out of this big cat's way. But if she gets a whiff of them, she'll go on the offensive, tracking them down with deadly intent. Silently, the lioness approaches, then attacks. In the confusion, the normally diligent dogs leave their pups unattended. By the time the adults return, 4 of the pups are dead. Not interested in eating them, the lioness leaves the bodies behind. Like a warning to stay out of her way. The behavior seems barbaric, but fewer wild dogs in the pack means more food for the lion's future. Scientists even have a name for the lion's strategy of threat and intimidation. They call it the landscape of fear. And it extends to all the big predators who dare to cross the lion's path. Cheetahs take the brunt of the lion's ire. Lions kill up to 57% of cheetah cubs. So when this cheetah mother realizes that her and her cubs have been spotted, she puts her own life on the line to try and save theirs. The king of the cats has zeroed in on a cheetah and her cubs. He'll kill the cubs if he gets a hold of them, and the mother cheetah knows it. So she plays a game of misdirection, using her speed to stay just out of reach. The lion falls for it this time. But cheetah cubs aren't always that lucky. Most cubs are killed while their mothers are out hunting. Wherever they go, lions bring the landscape of fear with them. They project power simply by showing up, and more often than not, a bluff, a lunge, a snarl will send the other predators running. Unless that other predator is a hyena. Despite the lion's size, strength, and impressive weaponry, hyenas are rarely intimidated. Whether one-on-one or clan versus pride, hyenas and lions cover the same ground, hunt the same prey, and scavenge the same remains. These uber competitors have developed a deep hatred that surpasses even the rivalries between cats and dogs. Evident when they steal, threaten, and even kill each other's young. It's a cycle of kill or be killed. A night hunt, and a traveling herd of wildebeest, prime for the taking. This pride of lionesses succeeds in taking down an adult. But their kill has not gone unnoticed. Just as they start to dig in, a large, hungry clan of hyenas appears out of the darkness. Lions and hyenas are about to go to war. In a face-off between ultimate rivals, this clan of hyenas is primed for battle with the pride of the lions. The lionesses are without their dominant male, and the hyenas have noticed that the odds are in their favor. Their first strategy is intimidation. Hyenas have 11 chilling vocalizations, including war cries that have been known to drive another predator off its kill. But not today. The two sides engage. One lioness, caught alone, is surrounded and severely outnumbered. A second dares to distract the attackers and pays the price. The sheer number of hyenas runs off the entire pride. Except for one lioness, frightened and alone, but alive and out of reach. She can only watch as the scavengers make quick work of her kill. But the hyena clan's victory has come at a price. One of the cubs is badly injured. When the dominant male lion arrives on the scene, he is hungry for vengeance. The wounded hyena has no chance. He has no intention of eating the cub, but he stays with the body until it grows cold. When the other hyenas find the cub, they do something extraordinary. They eat it. Not above cannibalism, if it means an easy meal. These are the extreme measures that make the hyena the ultimate survivor. A misfit that has found its violent niche in a dog and cat world. In this world, hyenas chase lions. Leopards stash their meals out of reach. Wild dogs band together to run their prey into the ground. Jackals pick up the leftovers. And everyone steals from the cheetah. In this competitive landscape, showdowns can be deadly. But each species, all the cats, the dogs, and the hyenas have managed to carve out their own unique existence. Whatever strategy they choose, cats and dogs will remain Africa's ultimate rivals.